That's interesting. And it's interesting you mentioned security because one of the trends that I've been seeing in WordPress hosting space has been the massive acquisition sprees from some of the larger companies like GoDaddy and Liquid Web.
Yeah.
They're just gobbling up all of these companies, especially WordPress related companies, and a lot of plugin companies.
Yep.
As a hosting company that's a competitor to them, how, like, what are your thoughts on that?
We get approached constantly for buyouts, and we're always very polite, and we say thank you, but no thank you. We
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about you selling
Yeah.
out. I was thinking about these hosting, a few hosting companies acquiring all of these components within
yeah.
the hosting space that your users might rely on. Like, how do you deal with that, or what do you?
So I think in any industry, consolidation is inevitable. Industries reach a certain point where the big players gobble up a lot of the smaller players. But I think the market is so vast in the web, generally, WordPress specifically, that there'll always be opportunities. And I think it's difficult for any single player, though they're trying, to massively take over one giant corner, of the web or WordPress necessarily. And the thing for us, I think, and this is more about who we are as people, nothing to do with technology, we enormously value our independence. So we always want to be able to make our own decisions. We're completely bootstrapped. We've never taken any VC money since 2013. So good or bad, any initiative that we launch could be a disaster, could be a horrible flop. Some of them are. That's inevitable in business and entrepreneurship. What matters to us is just that freedom of not being an employee and not kind of being bossed around and told what we can do or can't do. Because we have a bunch of really creative, smart people in the company, including the two, the founding partners as well. So I think we'll always go for our independent path, and we'll just find new opportunities. And I think in the longer term, we'll be a software company that includes hosting, but we will also have a range of other products that we develop and launch and support ourselves.
Do you see or think about collaboration a lot?
Yeah, we do.
Is there other, there's more hosting companies your size than GoDaddy size.
Sure.
Do you guys contribute? Is there open source stuff you guys work on, or is there any kind of projects that you guys collaborate on that you see as important to your existence? As are you maybe a middle-sized hosting company, mid-sized?
Yeah.
I don't know how you would.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to measure. We're 110 people, about the full-time staff, I think, somewhere there. One of the problems we've had, Kevin, here in this city, here, Sofia, Bulgaria, it's a massive tech center in Europe. So the demand for developers is crazy. It's a huge hub here. And when we see software developer ads, or when we run them in the past, we use other measures now, there would be a minimum of 500 other software companies advertising for the same position. So it's like crazy competitive. And my point of that is that the devs that we do have, we've got a team of about 8 or 9 guys. They are so, overloaded with all of our endless creative ideas and improvements and all of that, some of which I've talked about on this call, that outside collaboration is kind of just logistically, physically impossible at this point. Maybe in the future we can do more of that. We're always open to collaboration and joint venture projects, but so far, one that appeals enough hasn't really come along. But maybe in the future that would be the case.
Interesting. Yeah, I spend a lot of my time talking with people like yourself who run hosting companies, and it is interesting to see kind of how they view their company in relation to the market. And a lot of it, it seems it's easier to just kind of isolate and insulate yourself from a technology standpoint.
Yep.
And we're seeing, especially with the changes in like the control panel market, we're seeing bad partners.
Yeah.
You know, C Panel and Plesk have all been acquired by one company that is just unilaterally increasing prices on
They're like 10x,
probably
10x the price or something crazy.
massive percentage of the companies. Yeah, I mean, the majority of companies use that software, and now you have effectively a monopoly
Yeah.
in this little part,
Yeah.
forcing that out. And so,
That's
kind of watching this massive change of people like you having a development team and building your own products because of that
yeah.
fear of dependencies probably plays a big role.
Yeah, that's exactly why we never went down the Google Cloud server infrastructure path that you have with Kinsta, for example, and I think WP Engine and SiteGround are there now as well. So that's their choice, and that's completely fine. But we know if one day Google just decides to unilaterally triple the prices on all of that server infrastructure, their business model could be in huge trouble. So with our own servers, you're always dependent to a certain degree on other third parties, you know, your co-location guys, your data center, network provider, all of that stuff can screw up. But we try to minimize that as much as possible and not be, you know, too reliant. We own all our own servers. We buy them. We don't rent them from anyone. And we're always kind of buying the newest ones, highest spec possible, that kind of thing. So we try to always, like you say, isolate as much as possible. You can't completely, but as much as you can.
Yeah, you're trying to mitigate the risks as much as possible on partners.
Yeah, exactly.